Okay, thank you everyone for coming. The Chabura that we're going to be starting in Mitzvah Hashem this year for the 11th grade here in Tufshin Ayin Zion is it's a special Chabura that I've been doing for a number of years now. And really the main purpose of this Chabura, and really the main purpose of last year's 10th grade Chabura as well, is to give you the opportunity to ask any and every question you'd want to ask, and for me to address it. You can ask me throughout the week, you can ask me after tonight, and I can try to work it into next week. If you remind me, if there are answers that I can answer right away, I'll answer. Otherwise, I'll look into it and I'll answer it for you. But really, it's any and every question you might have on Yiddishkeit, on life, I'm happy and willing to answer for you. So, bottom line, don't ever go through life and look back, whether it's for the rest of high school or as you move on to yeshiva, etc. Don't ever look back in life and think, we were never able to get a good answer to that question. We were never able to ask that question. Ask me, I'll get you an answer. And if you don't like my answer, I'll explain to you why you either should like my answer or I'll give you another answer. For tonight, I was presented with a couple of questions that I will try to work into what I'm going to say towards preparation for Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur. So in this week's Parsha, Parsha's Kisava, we have a fascinating juxtaposition. The Parsha tells us that there are numerous klalos, numerous curses that Klal Yisrael accept upon themselves to stay away from, lest they be cursed by doing these bad things. And this really speaks to us from a yiras shamayim, from a fear of God, a fear of Hashem perspective. Don't do it or else. What are the first two? Avodah Zarah and cursing your parents. What's the connection between these two? Avodah Zarah and cursing your parents and making sure to act properly and appropriately with your parents. What's the connection? So I think we can say that we already find really in Maseches Kedushin, where it talks about Kibbud Avim at length, and the Makoros, the sources for Kibbud Avim, you find that a lot of it has to do with the same ideas and concepts that involve respecting, honoring, and following Hashem. And once again, there seems to be this connection in those sugyas in Kedushin between the fear and honor of Hashem and the fear and honor of parents. Similarly, we even have a Hava Amina. We have a thought in the Gemara that maybe you should listen to your parents even more than listening to Hashem. What if your parents tell you to do an Avera? Maybe you should listen to your parents. The Gemara concludes no. If your parents tell you to do an Avera, that's the exception to the rule. That's when you don't listen to your parents. But what's the Hava Amina? What's the thought process that we should listen to our parents even against God himself, against the Torah himself? So I think this all pushes us in the direction that the relationship we have with our parents, and this applies to anyone, people, every person in this room, every person in Klal Yisrael, every person in the world was raised by someone. If we were babies and left to our own devices to try to figure life out for ourselves, we would not have made it past a few days, period. That's the way Hashem made the world. So this applies to parents, it applies to whoever raised us, whoever took care of us. Everyone has different scenarios and situations. The Gemara and the Torah are both telling us that there is a tremendous connection between God, who created everything, and our parents, who certainly took part in creating us, and bringing us up and raising us. And that really the love, the respect, the fear, the awe with which we should stand in front of our parents is actually a mashal. It's something which gives us a hint, it gives us an example to understand how we should act with Hashem. Because Hashem is extremely intangible. We can't detect him with our five senses. There's a lot that we can say to rationally understand that he does in fact exist and he's involved with the world and that Yiddishkeit is the correct religion. And I've spoken to you about that at length last year. Maybe we'll review it again at some point this year in this Chabura. But there's a tremendous rational basis for Yiddishkeit and everything that it claims. And once we have that, even though we have that, it's still intangible. It's not something we can easily go out and just look and see and remind ourselves real quick with our five senses. And that makes it difficult. That makes it very difficult at times. But Hashem wants us to be able to plow through those dark times when we can't see it so clearly and be able to still maintain that connection with Hashem. And one of the tools He gives us is a parent-child relationship. When the Torah tells us, cursed is the person who worships Avodah Zarah, and cursed is the person who curses his parents, who rejects his parents. It's the rejection of Hashem through Avodah Zarah that is being compared to the rejection of your parents through cursing them, through basically not listening to them and rebelling against them. So therein, I think you see in this week's Parsha a tremendous idea when it comes to Yiras Hashem, fearing Hashem. We have to recognize that our parents actually are already a great tool for us to use through which we can develop and enhance our ability to relate to Hashem through fear, through authority. But of course, there's the other side of it also, Ava. And Ava, of course, applies to parents as well. But let's use a different mashal for that. Where's the mashal we can find in this world for Ava? The Rambam already tells us that a person should try his best to get to Avas Hashem, to love of Hashem, to the extent like a man who is obsessed with a woman. That's what the Rambam says. Mishuga over a woman. That's the Rambam's lashon. That's the type of Ava we're supposed to try to reach. It's so hard to really get to that level, but to get higher and higher levels towards that ideal is our avoda. When it comes to Ava, that's the Yira, and that's the Ava. I like to say a little mashal, just to help us appreciate the learning that we do, because here we are in Ner Yisrael. The vast majority of the hours of our waking hours of the day are learning Gemara, essentially learning the details of the mitzvahs and the averos and the dikdukim of the Torah. And we're delving into it deeply and trying to understand every side of the equation, every tzad, every chakira, every opinion. And we're spending so much time, sometimes it seems on nuances, and sometimes it would seem on such abstract, non-applicable things. Things that, like, what do they have to do with our everyday life? But I want to present to you a mashal that I think sheds some light on that and can give us a little bit more of an appreciation for it. So you guys are not in Shidduchim now, and you shouldn't be yet. But in Meretz Hashem soon, not too soon, you will be. And Meretz Hashem will be a fast process filled with clarity for all of you. You can say amen to that. So in that process, so maybe you won't understand exactly what I'm saying, but I have a feeling most of you will. Imagine you're going on a date with a girl, and it's already a few dates in. For sure, those of you who have older siblings that have already went through this process have at least seen the process. And it's a few dates in, it's starting to get more serious, and you want to make a good impression on the girl, so you decide you're going to buy something to give to her at the beginning of the date. Something not too big, not too small. So you think to yourself, a safe bet would be, a dozen red roses. And believe it or not, a dozen red roses can be quite pricey when you don't buy them at the supermarket. When you go to a real professional flower store, all of a sudden the roses are much longer and bigger and more expensive. Take my word for that. And you could do that. It's a safe bet. You spend some money on a dozen red roses. Chances are she'll like it. It'll be a nice gesture. Beautiful. Okay. And that could enhance the relationship, that gift. Or you can go to 7-Eleven, the one on Hooks Lane. You can get more hechsherim on everything. And open up the fridge and take out an ice-cold kiwi strawberry Snapple. And you can put that on this passenger seat, so when she comes to the car, she's surprised and she sees this ice-cold kiwi strawberry Snapple. Now, which gift is going to get the better effect? On the surface, you would think the flowers. But the truth is, let me tell you the backstory when it comes to that Snapple. You see, I'm back on the second date a number of dates ago, it could be a number of weeks ago. She mentioned in passing that it's strange, but her favorite flavor of Snapple is kiwi strawberry. And you, because you were interested in her and wanted to develop a relationship with her, were listening. Not only were you listening at the time, but you remembered. And it mattered to you. Even the little nuance mattered to you. And so you kept track. And when the relationship developed to the point where it was appropriate for you to buy her a gift, you got her that kiwi strawberry Snapple. That kiwi strawberry Snapple is so much more than a Snapple. It's a gesture of, I'm interested in you. I care about you. I want to develop a relationship with you. And in fact, in that scenario, it will do much more than the standardized red roses. When we learn Torah, and we look at the vast amount of nuanced halachos that there are, if you count the se'ifim in Shulchan Aruch, and then the pratim within each se'if in Shulchan Aruch, it's massive. And it governs every waking moment of our days, every action, every thought, every decision, and all ends of the spectrum of our existence. But really, Hashem is saying to us, I want you to be able to have such a deep, rich relationship with me. While the Goyim, let's call it, have 7 branches to get to know me through, you have 613, which branch into thousands, tens of thousands. He's saying to us, he's offering to us a tremendously deep relationship with him. And he's saying, come, have that relationship with me. So how do we do that? Obviously through doing the mitzvahs, through keeping them for sure. But also, and perhaps even initially and primarily so, through getting to know him, so to speak, kiviyachol, if we could say that. Getting to know his ratzon. What is he into, so to speak, kiviyachol? What is it? We have to speak in mashalim when it comes to Hashem. But what is he into, and what is he not into? What does he like, and what does he not like, so to speak? And learning even the most abstract concepts, even concepts that may never affect us in our lives ever. We are learning that this is how Hashem sees justice there. And this is how Hashem sees emes there. And this is how Hashem sees fairness there. And this is how Hashem would decide that case. And we're learning and showing interest in what he is interested in and wants. We're connecting our das and our ratzon with his. That is the greatest way to develop a relationship with Hashem. That's why learning is so special. And that's why no matter what you're learning, no matter how nuanced and abstract, it's so special. It's connecting to Hashem, and it's worthwhile. Not in the middle of the Tosfos, so you lose track, but at the beginning of a Seder, when you're on your way to the Beis Medrash, when you're about to start, when you're starting to space out, and it's too long, just remind yourself for a second. No matter how technical the details and how strange they may be for your life, you're connecting to Hashem through every one of these details. It's a very special, amazingly, we are fortunate to have the opportunity to connect with Hashem in such a way. That's Avas Hashem. We have our parents as a mashal. We have a husband and wife as a mashal for all of these tremendous emotions and avenues of relationship that we can have with Hashem. So when we put that into perspective, when we think about, okay, we all do Averos, we all have to do tshuva, we're coming into Yom Noraim, Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, Yemei Hadin. That's another aspect of it. It's not just connecting to Hashem through the Elul that leads into the beauty and the malchus of Rosh Hashanah and the joy of Yom Kippur through Kapara and its amazing, happy relationship that we have. Yom Kippur is the happiest day that Hashem gives us that Kapara. And on Rosh Hashanah, it's meant to have a tremendous aspect of malchus, of us coming with tremendous kavod to be mamlech the king, not being broken. And Elul standing for Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, the kurva, the closeness of Hashem to us. All that is very positive, and all that is necessary. But it's also Yemei Hadin. We're judged. We're supposed to have some trepidation. We're supposed to have some element of concern to make sure we do our best when it comes to this avodas Hashem. And there's a serious approach to it that goes together with all of this. A mashal I like to say for the severity of our Avera is just to think, when we do an Avera, it's not, okay, we did an Avera. No, we need to recognize how severe it is and therefore bring us to do tshuva. Every single Avera, bar none, has tshuva. Admit them, the Averas. Regret them. Really feel bad about them. And commit not to do it again. Ever. How can I? Do your best. Show Hashem you're really trying. You're taking solid steps to never do the Averos again. That's what Hashem wants. That's tshuva. But we have to be driven to it. How severe are our Averos? Imagine you have a guy in shul. He's a little upset at one of his friends in shul because that guy took his aliyah when it was his yortzeit. How dare he take my aliyah? It was my aliyah. I should have been the one to get the aliyah. Okay, some weeks go by. Anyway, it turns out this guy that's really upset, let's call him Shimon, and the guy who took his aliyah is Reuven. So Shimon's all upset. And he gets sick. Nebuch, he gets sick. He needs a kidney transplant. And they send out advertisements. And Reuven, turns out, is a perfect match. And he says, I'll do it. Now imagine Shimon and Reuven are lying on the stretchers next to each other in the prep room. And Shimon's getting prepped for him to be opened up. Reuven's getting prepped to be opened up to take his kidney out of his body and put it into Shimon's. And they're lying next to each other, glancing at each other. And they start the anesthesia. And Shimon and Reuven are both slowly drifting off into sleep. But right before they fall asleep, Shimon looks over at Reuven and he says, don't think I forgot when you took that aliyah from me. It's terrible that you did that. And they both drift to sleep and wake up with Shimon having one of Reuven's kidneys inside of him. I mean, that's ridiculous. Could you imagine something more chutzpahdik than that? Well, I can. Let's make the mashal better. Imagine instead of needing a kidney transplant, Shimon's unconscious. His heart stopped. And Reuven is a Hatzalah member. So he rushes over to Shimon and he gets on top of Shimon's chest and starts CPR. And all of a sudden, right, Reuven's the one doing CPR. All of a sudden, Shimon wakes up for a second because his heart starts beating with him doing chest compressions. And he sees who's doing the chest compressions on him. And he looks at him and he spits in his face and he says, you took my aliyah! And Reuven's like startled for a second, so he stops doing the chest compressions and Shimon falls back flatline. So Reuven has to realize, I got to keep doing the chest compressions even though he just spat in my face. And it's a crazy scene. What kind of thing is this? Could you imagine anything more chutzpahdik than that? But that is exactly what we do when we do an Avera. Why? Why does our heart beat? You close your ears right now, all of you. The one sound you can hear if you really pay attention is the pulse, your heart beating. Why does it beat? It just beat again. It just beat again. It just beat again. You know how I know? Because none of you are fainting. Why? Yeah, okay, there's biological processes. Of course, there's muscle process and there's actually electrical processes going on, all working without us even thinking about it to keep us alive. The heart is the most amazing part of the body to show us that we're not here like this table is now from a second ago. Since it was here a second ago, it's here now. Every moment, it's kim'at. It's almost like we die and are reborn because our heart stops but then beats again. Got saved from that one. The Ribono Shalom is doing chest compressions on us, so to speak, every second of every day of our lives. And we do an Avera, we're looking up at that Hatzalah member, so to speak, and saying, I don't care about what you want. I don't care about your desire, so to speak, spit in his face. Now, obviously, that's a much better mashal for doing an Avera lahachis, which is extremely bad and more rare nowadays, where you want to do the Avera in order to anger Hashem, in order to rebel against Hashem. It's much more rare nowadays. Generally speaking, which is a good thing, Averas are coming out of taiva, and us, hopefully, deep down inside, not really wanting to do the Avera, but making a mistake, getting wrapped up in the taiva. And when it comes from that, it's certainly not the same thing as lahachis, but still recognize it's like going against that person doing CPR on you right now. So when we use mashalim like that to help us try to feel the severity and the seriousness of an Avera, it might help us not do Averos, but even if we do, it at least can help us develop that desire from within to want to not do the Averos, and therefore to do tshuva for them. To do tshuva for them. To not pretend like we didn't do it. Admit it. To not just move on and go on to the next distracting thing. Regret it. Feel bad about it. And then finally, to take real steps towards never doing it again. Again, Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam. We all fall. We have to rise up again. But we have to take real steps. That might involve talking to people to get strategies and eitzas and adrachas towards conquering a taiva or an avera. But we have to take those steps. Whether we fall more or not, we have to rise again and try again. And that's all part of being in the tshuva process. Hashem smiles down upon you for doing that, for putting that genuine effort into it. And again, that all comes from developing those relationships, those feelings towards Hashem of Ahava and Yira. Perhaps the most obvious time that we can see ourselves as connecting to Hashem is davening. Where if anyone from the outside would watch you daven, assuming you daven somewhat like a mensch, they'll see your eyes closed or your eyes in a sitter. It's more obvious with a person whose eyes are closed. Imagine that person, and his lips are moving. Two options. Either he's drunk or he's a crazy person, right? But really, he's talking to God. That's what we're doing. So either we're all doing something really silly and fooling ourselves, or we're doing something incredible. Those are the only two. There's no in between here. Either we're talking to no one and no one's listening and it makes no sense at all, or we're doing something that equally makes no sense in terms of Olam Hazeh, and there's like a bridge that Hashem just granted us in this world, a straight bridge to the spiritual realm. To talk to Him, that's incredible. And we're interacting with Him. He might not answer you back, but there's an interaction between you and the master of all realms, including the spiritual realm. It's an unbelievable idea. Think about that. Think about how special davening is. How tangible that connection can be for a person if he thinks and he contemplates ahead of time the love for Hashem, what it should be like, and the fear of Hashem. I'll add in here as a side point, the foundation of any relationship is trust. And so if we can build that relationship with Hashem, the fear, the love, and all that's included in it, then we can develop trust in Him. What does it mean to have trust in Him? Well, as an example, Hashem tells us Mashiach is going to come. When, how, what's the Yemos of Mashiach going to be like? And then we can start talking about Gilgulim and all the fun questions that come along with that. Which wife am I going to be with? Which husband is she going to be with? And all the crazy questions that we can spend a lot of time on not answering well because we don't know Kabbalah. And when it comes to Gilgulim. All these strange ideas that we really don't have a good perception and a comprehension of. But we trust. The trust comes along with developing the relationship. The trust is the foundation of that relationship. And so Hashem tells us there's going to be a Mashiach, there's going to be a Yemos of Mashiach. We trust, even though we can't comprehend how it will come and what it means. Sometimes I get asked. So someone told me that Yemos of Mashiach is going to be that we're all going to be sitting in shir and we're going to be learning. But it's going to be the most geschmack learning ever with the most geschmack Rebbe. And not only that, no breakfast, lunch, or supper breaks, no bathroom breaks. Straight learning, 24/7. So what do I need to do to make sure not to end up in that shir? And yeah, if you describe it in a specific way and you try to make it like our current existence in this world, it becomes confusing and strange, and you can end up with strange questions like that. But here's what I do know. We don't know what it's going to be like. We're physical bodies with physical brains. We can't imagine the pure spiritual. We can't imagine it. So let's stop trying to. One thing we do know that's revealed to us and we trust in its authenticity. In Avos it tells us, the diuk in the Mishnah is the reach, the smell outside of the gates of Gan Eden is more pleasurable than every single moment of pleasure that every single person who ever walked the face of the earth ever had, all combined into one unimaginably intense moment of pleasure. So whatever that is, overwhelming pleasure, the smell outside the gates of Gan Eden, of the schar, of the connection to the Ribono Shel Olam in the spiritual realm, of going back to Adam Rishon Kodem Achet, of the perfected creation of Adam, that pleasure of the closeness to Hashem that we can't even imagine where we are now, is going to be the most pleasurable thing ever. Now, what is the tzura? What is the exact scene and the setting? It's not going to look like this. It's going to be a spiritual setting. But it's going to be the most pleasurable thing that I can guarantee you. So whatever mashal you want to use for what's the most pleasurable thing in the world for you right now, it'll be that times, let's say, 100. Should pick a random number. But it's infinity. So that's the best way to think about Yemos HaMashiach. And the best way to understand that he will come, and he is coming. We just don't know how, when, and exactly what it's going to look like, is to recognize, trusting. Once Hashem is true, and the Torah is true, which we've discussed, then what it says in the Torah is true. And that's what it says in the Torah and in the Talmud. So we trust, we have that foundation for a tremendous relationship. Let's talk about a couple of practical things. Number one, the Rebbeinu Shalom does so much for us every single day. He gives us health. He gives us everything in our life, really. Family. But there are many examples. Seriously, contemplate for 1 minute before Rosh Hashana, before Yom Noraim come. And the sooner you do this, the better. You can implement it now already. But certainly for the Yemei Adin, for the Yom Noraim, think one thing that you are appreciative that Hashem gives to you. One thing. There's thousands to choose from. Think of one thing. But think of something you're really happy you have. Not like, yeah, Hashem gives me like it's a really cold can of soda on Thursday nights after Mishmar. No, something you're really happy about. And think about that and the feelings of happiness that it conjures up within you a few times over the course of Yom Noraim. A few times. Think about that. It could be even in the middle of davening. You could pause for a minute just to contemplate that, to bring your emotions out a little bit before you continue davening. And one more thing going along the lines of our mashal before. Think about one thing that your parents give to you. That those people who, without them, you'd be nothing. Think about what they give to you. It could be elements of food, clothing, and shelter as the most basic things that they give to you in order to survive. It could be so many other things. So many other things. Think of one real thing and use that towards the feelings of appreciation to your parents. Not only that, here you could take it one step further. You could do it in Shemona Esrei and in random, you can express to the Ribono Shalom as well that you appreciate it, not just think it. But with your parents especially, express it to them. Go over to them a few times. Now, Yom Noraim. Choose, it should be something different each time, otherwise it's going to start to look suspicious. But choose a few things that you really appreciate and say to them, just want to let you know, I appreciate that you do this for me, that you give this to me. Imagine the attention, devotion, consideration, care, concern that they put into you on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. Think of one thing and express it to them to enhance your feelings of appreciation. And then again, a couple times over the course of Yom Noraim and in the Tefillah, because the parents are that dugmar, that mashal for the relationship with Hashem. Think about it. Conjure up the emotion of appreciation of Akar Satov to the Ribono Shalom and everything that he gives to you. This certainly enhances and increases our ability to feel a little bit more the relationship that we can and should have with the Ribono Shalom. I'll leave you with this. So we all know the big talk in the news now is this hurricane coming. That's for some people. Everyone else, of course, we're talking outside of yeshiva. Everyone else, it's that the football season began tonight. So those are your two choices. Either there's a hurricane coming on a destructive path to kill tons of people and destroy tons of houses and everyone's running for their lives, or football season started. Those are basically the two headlines. And a hurricane really shows us. It really does show us when these types of things come and you see. Baruch Hashem, we don't have to experience it, but we can learn the lessons. Please Hashem, listen. We can learn the lessons of the hurricane without needing to experience it. We can see from afar, which is how we like it, how it should be for all of Klal Yisrael. And Mirz Hashem, it shouldn't have to affect any more people than it did already in Houston. It shouldn't have to affect anybody else in Florida or anywhere else. Mirz Hashem. But we can learn the lessons. Look at what is the most valuable possessions of a person in this world. What are they? What does a person take with him? Normally those words are expressed by a Rebbe, meaning after 120, what do you take with you? You're not taking your physical possessions. So invest in your spiritual bank account, so to speak. Even in this world, what are your most prized possessions? It's not your house, your car, all that stuff. If the hurricane's coming, you're first and foremost taking care of your lives, of course, and your families. My grandmother actually lives in Miami Beach. She's, I think, 95 or 96 now. And when I called her earlier this afternoon, she was already, my uncle actually lives in Boca, so he's also in trouble there. So he picked her up from Miami Beach, and they were already on their way back to Boca, and tomorrow morning they're taking an early flight to New York. That's what matters. You, your families. That's your prized possession in this world. And it's not just because, well, we're living together. The relationship that we build with our families is a source of chizuk. The appreciation we have towards each other, the love that develops, is a source of strength for us and a mashal for how it is really with Hashem and how we need to strive to really feel that it is with Hashem. And we take notice that everything can be taken away so fast. But when we ask Hashem in this world, please don't take away from us, is that mashal, our family. So we can continue to build ourselves and grow more and closer towards Ahavas and Yiras Hashem, towards building that relationship with Hashem. And while sometimes distractions are a good thing, relaxation was not a creation of the Satan. It's also a creation of Hashem. It's a good thing. The greatest Gedolim changed venues for relaxation at times. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We have to make sure not to do anything bad during relaxation times. But we also, more than that, we have to make sure to recognize that the purpose of relaxation is to rejuvenate, to then get back to work, so to speak. What's our work? Growing, building ourselves, enhancing our relationship with the Ribono Shalom. These times of Elul, the kurva, the closeness that Hashem brings to us, the opportunity we have to develop that relationship more now than any other time in the year, but it's true throughout the whole year, of course. To feel that closeness through thinking of Akar Satov that you have to Hashem and to your parents as that mashal, to those who are taking care of you as the mashal. To think about it, to express it, to even do more than just think about it, to express it to them. Those are very tangible, practical ways of working on enhancing our relationship, showing Hashem we value it so much. We recognize that's really what matters in this world. Mirz Hashem, through us really working on those ideas, those concepts, will come into Rosh Hashanah being mamlich Hashem from a position of grandeur, from a position of we're working on ourselves. We're a bekavadika people. We might not be perfect, but we're trying. We're working. We're taking real steps towards getting better. And that's the greatest way to be mamlich Hashem. Because just like Ein Melech B'lo Am, he's not a king if he has no nation, but also how much of a king is he? How grand is he? To the extent that his nation is grand. The more amazing his nation is, the more, if he's the king of that nation, the more amazing he is as the king. So we work on ourselves, increasing that cover to the Ribono Shalom. We work on our relationship with him. It allows us to connect with him on an even deeper level. We come into these Yomim Noraim, we come into Yom Kippur, the happiest day of the year. A day where we're so in love with Hashem and he with us, so to speak, he wipes it clean. As long as we come in wanting it, wanting to be better. Sometimes I say over to a boy who's involved in something that he shouldn't be involved in, I'll say, if I could give you a pill right now, you take this pill, you will not want that anymore. The nisayon for that avera will be gone in a second. Done. In a healthy way, let's say we could do that. Because there are different taivas and different things that are necessary for different purposes. It's important to have a taiva for achila, right? For eating. If you don't, you might be in trouble after a few days. But imagine I could take away the taiva for instantly, in a healthy way. Theoretically, would you like to take that pill? If the boy answers hesitantly, like, I'm not sure, it means he's grown so attached to doing that taiva, to being over that avera, that even if it can make it easy for him, he's not sure to. That's where you want to move from. You want to at least get to the point of, truth is, if there was such a thing, I would take it. Then I could be closer to Hashem, and it wouldn't be a challenge. It'd be easy. I want that. Want that. If you could bring yourself to want that, and if you have a hard time doing it, think about what Hashem gives to you. Think about what your parents give to you as the mashal to Hashem. And through that, we'll be able to deepen our relationship with Hashem. We'll be able to get, just like He comes close to us, we'll be able to bring ourselves closer to Him. And we'll be zocha to those times that we trust exist, even if we can't put our fingers on it exactly. The Yemos HaMashiach, b'mher v'yameinu, amen. Have a good Shabbos.